a lot of things are happening. I have 3 students who are going to redo, actually, they're going to be a recreation of my website. And I completely rethought organizing it and doing, here's sort of a picture of my idea for the front page. Rather than the sort of usual thing of about and events and this and the, info stuff, I'm going to do educators and students. I need a word for this tab would be supporting educators and students. This one would be supporting artists, but I need a better word because it's not supporting painters. A lot of people, I think, when they say artists, think painters, but the idea is dancers, actors, creatives of all kinds. I might use the word creatives. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
that sounds
good, I think. Creatives.
good. Yeah. Supporting creatives, because I really want to offer a language of movement class for artists, dancers, actors. I mean, I had musicians taking my Move to Learn class last week. And maybe even a brain body fitness class that's really geared for dancers. And then the last one I have down here, support for aging. I mean, it's where brain body fitness is going to occur.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, I didn't want to say supporting specifically seniors or 55 plus or whatnot. Brain body fitness works for somebody of any age, I feel. I don't think of myself.
Through the ages, yeah.
But we all do age. So I don't know what you think about that word.
Age is a good thing.
Basically, I'm looking for a word. So if you came to my website, all of you who are taking brain body fitness and like it, that you would see a word that draws you, or you would feel like going there and seeing what that's about. So far, my idea was supporting aging or supporting or enhancing movement. I came up with 2, but that's pretty vague and airy-fairy. So
brain body fitness doesn't do it, eh?
I thought of that. Bob sort of liked the idea of aging, supporting aging, because all the other tabs, I used that word supporting, which I kind of liked. Anyway, if anybody has any ideas that pop into your head, you can speak them or you can write me or whatever. I'm really open to it. Good morning, Patsy.
Good morning.
So Amanda can't come today, so I guess we're ready and we are recording. Hallelujah. I promised her to send her a recording. So we're going to do a little bit of an enhanced brain pace this morning, based on a workshop that my colleague Lisa did on polyvagal theory. So I assume we're going to start after water. If you've all had water, we're just going to start with our ears. The reason being that our hearing is the first external sense to develop. And it's really important to our sense of safety. And basically we develop our hearing before seeing, and it seems in the nervous system, it seems to come first. So we become a very visual society, but actually hearing was our first external sense. So we're going to do that before we do our brain buttons. So I'm kind of mixing up a little polyvagal nurturing with our normal pace. And then going on to pace, they actually cover their eyes, but this really to me does the same thing. The scanning of the eyes is gently bringing our environment into our awareness. And we can see that actually what's around us is, you know, familiar things that are safe. And I love the fact that we're also finding our midline as we do this. And connecting with our kidney meridian, which also helps us to release fear. And then we're going to do something tactile. We're just going to hold our jaw like this. Now we do energy yawn. So you could do energy yawn here, but I also like this polyvagal thing where you just hold as if, you know, somebody who really loves you was just cradling your chin, and take a nice deep breath in and out. And let's take another deep breath and see if we can just allow our tongue. Notice if your tongue is relaxed. If you can let your tongue just drop and rest in the bottom of your mouth. And then slide your hands down to your heart. We've done this before. Take a nice deep breath. Feeling that heart energy into your hands. So all these areas that we're going are connected by the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. And then slide your hands. Actually, they say slide them along your rib cage to your navel, your belly. And another nice deep breath. There's a nerve plexus around in our abdomen. Now some scientists are calling it our first brain. I think they call it the first brain, and the heart is the second brain, and the brain, what we call our brain, is the third brain. Suppose you could do it the other way, but this is the most primitive part of our nervous system. And it's really important that this is calm so that we can rest and digest. And then we'll stand up by pressing our feet into the ground. We'll do some cross crawls. And now let's really slow the cross crawls down. We actually get more vestibular stimulation when we slow them down than when we do them quickly. And as you do it, I'd like to draw your awareness to the connection from your head to your tail through your navel. Or if you like, you can start by feeling the connection from your head to your navel to your tail, your navel to your head, and then feel that connection all the way. As you do your cross crawl, can you feel that center column of energy, nerves, muscle, bones? How that supports you as you move from one side to the other. And last of all, we'll do our hookups. Just need my glasses on so I can see you all. And just follow your own timing. When you're ready, you can go on to the second part. So last week, we worked with mouthing. This week, I want to work with our spine, our spinal movement. So some of the activities we're going to do are going to be similar, but we're focusing on the connection from the top of our head to the bottom of our tailbone. And if you want to give those two areas a little rub, go ahead. So we're just going to kind of check some of our spinal movements. So first, let's just check turning the head from one side to the other. Notice how far you can turn the head. Notice the ease of movement. And now close your eyes and do it again with your eyes closed. Just notice if there's any different sensation. That's our no movement. Now let's do our maybe movement from side to side. And notice mine has been restricted lately. And then close your eyes and notice if there's any difference. Okay, and now we're going to do the yes movement. So looking down at the floor and looking up at the ceiling, more than just what we would normally do for yes, but see what your range of movement is like going down and up. And then with care, close your eyes and do the same movement. Notice, of course, if there's any tension in the body as you do this. Notice if there's any holding of breath, or is it easy and fluid? So did anybody have any tension with any of those movements? Or, okay, if they were all good, give me a thumbs up. Okay, so moving on, we're going to just do all these checks. We're not going to correct sort of as we go. So now I want you to just allow your whole spine to twist and notice what that's like. We do this movement in Qigong. So be especially aware of the connection of the head to tailbone, but notice also what happens through the legs and the weight of your feet on the floor as you do this movement. And again, is your breathing easy and does it feel fluid? Now we're going to check the movement from the bottom of the we started at the top. Now we're going to go to the tailbone and the pelvis. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually stretch our knee to our hip. I'm bringing my knee and my hip together sideways. Not a movement we sort of often do, but this is a reflex called the spinal galant. And it's really good to keep this one toned up. And notice if there's any discomfort or any breath holding when you do that. Okay, sorry about the noise. And then we're going to just think of our tailbone, and we're going to do our tailbone moving forward and back. Try that movement, the tailbone moving forward and back. And then side to side. Just your tailbone. So let your knees relax so you can really, it's happening from the tailbone. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay. Now we're going to just go on our hands and knees and just do a little bit of that carry a snake. Just play with the head and the tail and notice that connection and mobility. You can do a little conversation between your head and your tail if you like. Try moving, you know, from one end and then from the other end. Maybe you even find a different character to your tail and your head. That is, that each one has its own character. You could play with, you know, the friendly dragon idea, or maybe a ferocious dragon, or a friendly snake. Okay, so for some reason, I really feel like doing the gate points. So I'm going to just invite you all to just, we're on the floor. So if you're comfortable sitting on the floor, or if you're not, you can get into a chair, and we're going to do our gate points. Because even though we're focusing on the spine today, these points help stimulate the basic coordination of our limbs and standing. And then let's do some of that lengthening along the sole of the foot. Push in, pull apart and hold. Push in, pull apart and hold. Okay, and then our other foot when you're ready. The gate points and then the lengthening. I find spinal movement is is a movement pattern that we're much kind of less aware of, like babies, newborns. It's their first method of locomotion is wiggling. And we kind of forget about that, but it supports all of our other movement patterns. And so I believe it's really, really important that we keep that spine alive and awake. I mean, this, just think of it. Your spine has more joints than any other part of your body, any other individual part of your body. And then let's just continue on up, since we're it's kind of fun to do this on the floor with our lymphatic massage. So going up maybe one leg at a time, so you make sure you get both the insides and the outsides of the legs really, really well. Coming up the inside and outside of your thighs on either side. Especially, you know, spring. This is a time when our bodies need to start cleansing a bit. Well, Ruth has access to, I'm sure, the first greens and things are coming on.
Yep.
I was ready to plant some a couple days ago, and then I noticed that the next day it was going to be below freezing and snowing, and I thought maybe those little seeds wouldn't appreciate going in the ground right yet.
No,
Too early.
too early.
And then let's do the, really give ourselves some work on the buttocks. And, you know, coming up the sacrum and reaching as far as you can, you know, on the lumbar back, giving some nice massage. And then we're going to do the rocker. We haven't done this for a long time. So this is using the floor to do kind of a glute massage. And one way is to just, you know, support yourself so that you can really get some pressure on both sides of the glute muscles. And we can also do some lazy eights. I like doing lazy eights as I'm doing it. And then if you really want to up the ante a little bit, you can lift your arms and legs off the ground and do a bit of rolling around. That, of course, takes a little more core strength and stability. And then we'll start along the top of the pubic bone with the rest of our lymphatic massage. Coming up to our navel, we go on either side of the navel, about a finger width or two, about an inch on either side of the navel. And there are actually 3 points along there. So I just go up and down along either side of my navel to get that area. And then starting just under the sternum, we're going to stretch just under the rib cage, reaching out from the center. And then I find it easier crossing my body and doing this one at a time. but we're going to get into those lower ribs. And I always do both sides. The reflex points are especially on the right side because of our gallbladder and our liver, but I always do both sides. And then right under the breasts or your nipple in there, and continuing under your armpit. There are a lot of lymph nodes in there.
Mhm.
And then coming right up the sternum. In the dance class, somebody drew my attention to how long our sternums are. So let's gonna work with this a little bit. If you find the bottom of your sternum and then you find this top of the sternum, look at how long that is. Some of it is, the lower part of it is more cartilage, I believe, but okay. And then we can cross and go across from our brain buttons all the way out. I know there's a little notch under here. We've got also acupressure points, the lung meridian there. Coming up our neck, all the way up to the occiput. And while we're on the neck, just maybe reaching down and getting as much of the sides of your spine as you can. And coming all the way up your neck. And let's take our fingers through our hair all the way up to the top of the skull. And we've got a point right here. If you put your palm just above your eyebrows, come to the top. This is governing vessel 20. It's a really important point. This in Chinese medicine is considered to be one of the first two acupressure points that are established with the union of the egg and the sperm. The polarity of the cell is created, and it's the point at the top of the skull, and the other one is the perineum. So it's the positive, negative poles of the first cell. And so that's considered to be that polarity is maintained as the cells divide and continue. This is the very important point. They have a word for it. I don't remember if this is the one that's called the gate of heaven or not, but Chinese have poetic names for all their acupressure points. So when we hold acupressure points, so we were doing lymphatic massage, excuse me, lymphatic massage, okay? So we do that kind of vigorously, but now we're actually doing neurovascular points. So these we hold lightly. Does that make sense? One is stimulating our lymphatic system, and I just kind of jumped up here now as we get to the top of our head because we're working on our spine to this top. So if you just hold it lightly, like when we hold our positive points, you know, like you were holding down the delicate wings of a butterfly. And as you hold it, you may start to sense a pulse. If you sense a pulse or you get a nice release, like a big breath, like Patsy just did, then usually, you know, the circuit is complete, or the process is complete. So we just we kind of skipped the lymphatic points in our arms as we went up the spine. So let's just get those. Once, just like our thighs, it kind of mirrors our thighs on the inside and outside of our arms. So hopefully now we're cooked. And we'll come up to standing. And the first thing I'd like us to do is that shaking the tree. I've started doing this every day and finding it useful. So first of all, get in touch with those three bones on the bottom of each foot, those tripods. Okay. And as we shake the tree, then keep the awareness in the feet until you really feel the toes spreading and the grounding as you're shaking through the feet. But then see if you can start to draw your awareness to your spine, up in the center, in that vertical channel of energy, all the way to the top of that point that we just held. And then we're just going to allow our legs to shake, supported by the ground, and bringing, feeling the support of the energy of the ground, like we're creating our own little earthquake. And then noticing as you do this, where you can let go of tension. So I just noticed that I could let go with my shoulders more. And my arms, it just felt like now my fingers were dropping down lower in space as I went. Now I'm aware of my rib cage, and I realize that I'm kind of holding that up a bit. We don't need to hold any of that, so we can just shake the whole tree. Almost like we're a little marionette hanging there, just dangling, jiggling, letting everything just jangle. And obviously now, maybe I should have said this before, you know, you don't have to look at the screen. Okay, and then let's just, I have a moment of stillness and breath. Feel just the residual vibration in the body, the energy. You know, like when you sound a note, if you were to pluck a harp, or if you play a note on a piano without the damper on, somebody finishes a beautiful piece of music, and then there's that wonderful moment as the sound slowly dies away. You don't get that so much in electronic music, but if you think of traditional instruments, that waiting for the last vibrations to fade. Similar thing here. So as let's do, I noticed that before we do Qigong, let's do the owl.
Good idea.
And then the other side. Okay, so as we do our Qigong today, I'd like to do the same sort of sequence we did last week, which if I remember correctly was were we doing 8 times?
Yep.
Yeah, 8 times. 8 is a wonderful number in Chinese stuff because there are eight trigrams in the I Ching. Okay, so let's get a sip of water. So as we do this today, I want us to be aware of, and I'll give some verbal comments as we go through. Be aware of our spine. Really focus on our spine. We've done a lot, focused on a lot of other things, but just that head-tail connection, how in every movement, what is the relation of your head to your tail as you do all of this? And feeling those basic movements that we did at the beginning of class, and also those basic 3 ways that any joint in our body can move, and certainly our spine displays this. In other words, flexion in any direction, the spine can do it in any direction. Extension, lengthening, feeling the length of the spine as you do the movement, and rotation. Okay, so here we go. So we'll just do the opening and the closing 3 times. I don't know, I just always like 3. And then it'll be 8 after that. So can you be aware of the spine moving vertically through space as we do this? How the spine is like sliding up and down through space. You might imagine you were doing this in a pool of water, and you could feel the sliding through the water, maybe more than sliding through the air. And we'll call this 8 and make the change to the next one. So here the spine is supporting the movement of our arms. Always breathing. 7, 8. Changing, stepping out to reach way over. Maybe your spine is like a reed that can bend in the wind. And here we have the 8th pair. And we come together. And here our arms are moving with the energy of the central meridian of our body. Which is connected with that basic polarity from the perineum up to that point on the top of our skull. So I'll say this is 7,
8.
8. Okay, thank you. And moving on. And now we have rotation for the first time. So can we feel that rotation all the way up? And we'll call this the last pair. One more, 8. Transition. So of course, there's a connection from the soles of our feet to that point on the top of our head. But the spine is what allows us to have this flexibility. Bending.
8.
8 and coming up, reach. So this time you can focus on, we still got that curve through the whole spine as the arms reach out. 7, 8, reaching up. 7 and 8 and transition. I believe this is 7 and 8 and notice if you relax your tongue, can you actually rotate further? I'll do a couple more. That was 8, but let's do 12, 9. Really focus on relaxing the tongue and the jaw. 11. Last one. Stepping out. Reaching over. Now we really get to use our spine and really sense that point at the top of our head. It could be a beacon, like a flashlight that shines down to the earth and back of us, forward and down, up and back. I think this is 7.
Yeah.
And 8. Reach up and back, step forward. Can you soften your ribs as you do this? Because all the movement is supported by the spine, or rather the movement of the upper torso. You don't have to use the rib cage to do this. The spine can do it. Seven, 8, and step back, rowing the boat. Now in this one, the spine actually stays upright. I haven't corrected this on people. See, if you can keep that alignment, you move forward from your hips and your shoulders are aligned over your hips. Because remember, this came somewhat from martial arts. And you don't want to be pushing your torso forward because then you could fall. You want to stay centered. We'll say 7 and 8. Change legs. Another thing is that when you keep your torso centered and over your hips and your head right over the top of your pelvis, as you do this, I start to feel some gentle stretch through my hips, through my groin. You're actually helping to get a bit of a stretch from the psoas muscle. Seven, 8, step back, step forward. Same thing here. This is what's different about this one from the first lunging exercise. I'm turning right sideways so you can hopefully see exactly what I mean. Step back, step forward. Eight, step back together, ready to punch. $16, sorry, or 8, and we're ready to go into the flying geese. I always love this moment as we come from those punches to this beautiful lyrical movement. We call this 7. 8. And now here, our spine really gets to go through a whole range of movement here. Really important to keep the contact of your soles of your feet and the ground in your awareness to support you. 7, 8, and reverse. Ready for cross crawls.
What'd you say?
So how is your spine supporting this movement as you shift from one leg to the other? 7 and 8 and change 1. Seven, 8, and double 1 and 2. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Change, cross. So as you make the shift, do you remember when we used to look at Philip, the skeleton, how the pelvis can just slide over a little bit from one leg to the other? We don't have to lift ourselves from one side to the other. Our pelvis just, I think of it as sliding over the other leg. Okay, and then coming up and going down. Hopefully now your head feels really suspended on top of your spine, and this movement is easy. I think that's 8. And coming around. So let's just do those checks we did at the beginning of class and just see if there's any difference. Oh, great idea, Ruth. I think we all probably need a drink of water. And we'll just run through those tilts and rotations, starting at the top. So turning the head from side to side. First with the eyes opening, noticing if it's the same or different as the beginning of class. Or is there any more fluidity or flexibility? Then with the eyes closed, notice the breathing and the overall tension in the body. And then tilting. I certainly have more mobility now than I did. With the eyes closed. And looking down. And up. And with the eyes closed. Okay, and then turning the whole body. Just notice the rotation in the spine generally. If that's the same or different. Okay, and then we have our spinal gallant. I don't know who that was named after, but the hip and shoulder on the same side moving together. And then the movement of the tailbone forward and back. And side to side. And there we go, our spines. So, did anybody find any difference at the end? I know most of you felt that you
Much easier.
pretty good. Oh, good. Okay.
A lot more fluid.
Super.
More relaxed.
Spine seems straighter and more centered.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, balance was better.
I don't know why it is, and I don't know if it's personal for me, except that I kind of see it, I observe it in other people as well. It's very simple to feel the upper lower homologous movement pattern, the one-sided movement pattern, the cross-lateral pattern. You can really feel that in your body, you know, your limbs, the coordination. But the real coordination of the spine in the middle somehow I find seems to be more subtle and isn't as easy. Maybe it's partly a cultural thing. I don't know, years of women being, you know, wearing corsets, years of men wearing collars and ties, and maybe, you know, we're all white folks here, and maybe all those years of that have tended to keep us very more held in the center. Bless you.
Sorry, hay
Bless
fever.
you.
I saw little bits of African dancing on a TV show we were watching the other night, and I mean, just the movement in the center of the body, and the torso and the spine is just so fluid and strong and vigorous.
Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Always appreciate it.
Have
Have a great week.
you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Audrey. You take care.
Off to you. Thanks. Great class again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana,
Yes.
I'm wondering, you switched from lymphatic, and then when we put our hand on our head gently, what was the word that went not lymphatic, but now we're doing
Neurovascular.
Oh, thank you.
Neurovascular. So it's kind of interesting because that one is actually an acupressure point as well, but it's also called a neurovascular holding point. In other words, a neurovascular point that you can hold. And so that's, you know, vascular refers to circulation. So it has to do with the circulation and our nervous system, whereas the lymphatics more deals with, you know, the system that helps to move toxins from our body. It's the garbage trucks, you know, coming around and getting rid of the, you know.
Thank you so much. I always enjoy our class.
Super, Patsy. I love this class myself.
I'm much looser